Welcome back guys. In this video we'll cover the new Electro character coming out in 5.8 INEFFA, her full kit, stats, gameplay, and whether she is worth pulling for. If you enjoy the video, consider leaving a like or subscribing because it helps out a lot. INEFFA is chalking up to be an incredibly interesting character due to her being the first character coming from the region of Nod Cry. This means that her gameplay and mechanics can give us a sneak peek into what the region will be like. Starting off with her stats, she's a 5-star polearm Electro character. She definitely doesn't fit the typical design of Genshin, but a pattern I'm noticing as the game progresses, so does the technology. This may be a lore-based choice or just a new choice in design. She's a support character and enables electro-charged reactions similarly to Nilo. Basically, when characters in her party trigger an electro-charged reaction, it will be converted to trigger a lunar electro-charged reaction. This will increase the base damage based on INEFFA's attack. So every 100 attack the damage increases by 0.7% up to 14%. This lunar charged reaction is different from normal electro-charged and even Nilo's bloom buff because it behaves like a whole new reaction. This creates a new playstyle that we haven't seen before in game. It will create this dark cloud above opponents. This reaction works differently than normal electro-charged, and it has a different base damage and elemental mastery scaling from normal electro-charge. The elemental mastery scaling determines how much the damage will increase based on your elemental mastery. The lunar electro-charge base damage is 2402 while normal electro-charge is 2893. Not only that, but this reaction can actually crit, which means that it will make electro-charged a much more powerful reaction than in traditional damage-dealing team comps. This is because most electro-charged characters aren't built off of elemental mastery, so when you change it from elemental mastery to crit with INEFFA as the catalyst for this new lunar electro-charged reaction, they will preform higher. However, there is a major con to this. This lunar reaction has a cooldown of 2 seconds. While this may seem fine, that means it will hit once every 2 seconds. Compared to normal electro-charged with a rate of 0.5, this is significantly slower. This can very much affect the damage dealt by the reaction, and that alone destroys all the good things about it. This is just so far, however, with new characters coming out or more details to be released this may change. She does also have a shield, however. Her scaling on this shield, I have to be honest, isn't the most impressive, but it isn't horrible either. This scaling scales on attack and has a duration of 20 seconds. This scaling does get better when she starts focusing on all attack stats with tenacity of the millilith, however. This shield comes from her skill, which also does damage from a robot she summons onto the field. If there are those thunderclouds from the lunar electro-charged reaction nearby, she will do an additional attack worth up to 80% of her attack. This damage is co-sidereal lunar charged damage. The robot she summons seems to be pretty good and strong when compared to other summons in the game and has a pretty good AoE. For her burst Brigitte, her robot can be summoned back onto the field and deal AoE electro damage and will remain on field. In this way she reminds me a lot of Fiscal with Oz in her gameplay mechanics. Brigitte can even be resummoned to her location if it's already on field, much like what Fiscal can do as well. After she uses this burst, she will have all nearby party members gain the parameter permutation effect, which increases both INEFFA's and her party members' elemental mastery by 6% of her attack for 20 seconds. This can lead to a buff of over 200 or even higher on heavy attack focused builds, which she scales off of significantly. On paper, she sounds like a really great and unique buffer and support that can provide for a team both defensively and offensively. In practice, however, her numbers aren't looking too impressive, which may make many players apprehensive to pull. If we sum up what she does, she buffs electro-charged, applies electro at a decent rate, she shields okay with a good build. Her passives are definitely what makes her kit really good, all things considered. She has the potential to be an incredibly strong character and could make electro-charged reactions meta, but she definitely needs some adjustments made to her kit. I personally believe she will get these adjustments sometime in the future. So far it's unsure where she really thrives with current playable characters, no matter how many we may have. It could just be that in the future she will be much stronger and meta then, but only time will tell. But she could also be like Emily, she also was released in the last patch and there wasn't much hype around her. Some thought she would make a lot more meta teams but really only fits with Kinich. The current ideas around her is that she isn't good but she isn't bad. She just sort of mid. She follows a pattern in Genshin, where defensive characters also buff and there's plenty of characters like that. What I really hope for is more focus on her new reaction and what that does because so far she does just so much she doesn't have one specific niche. As for teams she does have some current candidates. Hydro has been pretty much the strongest element in the game for a while now and this is no different. You can pretty much throw any strong Hydro on the team, including Furina, Yelan, Xingqiu, or even Nivelette and put him with Furina, Kazuha, and maybe Ororon. You could even do Kuki, Kokomi, or maybe even Mizuki. Clarenda teams could also be great with INEFFA. A team like INEFFA, Clarenda, Yelan, and Kazuha. This team doesn't do much damage in comparison and does about the same with her other electro-charged team. So it's not really worth it. You could also do even over Vape and Hyper Bloom teams with her. Obviously the focus should be on electro-charge but with her buffing elemental mastery, she has good potential in spread and Hyper Bloom teams where those characters would benefit. So an INEFFA, Nahida, Alhaitham, Yelan or Xingqiu team would he appropriate, however then you wouldn't be focusing her build so much on attack. What I'm getting at here is that as long as there's at least one Hydro character and INEFFA in the team, she's playable in the support role. I would recommend her with a Nivelette team personally, just because if you have C0 Nivelette you know how much he likes shielding and she can provide that. Not only that but he himself can create those lunar reactions. So Nivelette, INEFFA, Furina, and Kazuha or even Xilanen could work. Really the fourth slot can depend on what you're doing. It seems like she's a decently versatile character just not very strong at the current moment. That's not a bad thing necessarily. Genshin has released their fair share of mid characters that have just stayed that way. She might get better in the future however because we know Nod Cry characters get power from the moon, so her ties to this lunar reaction may mean we get a Kinich situation where she's good with one character and that character is very strong. This lunar reaction type may also apply to other reactions in the future like a lunar vaporized team or freeze which can buff so many characters in the future and bring older characters that fell off the meta back into the meta. Overall, I feel she has a lot of potential and let me know if you're pulling for her or not. Hope to see you next time and thanks for watching.